What's going on, Falcon fans? It's your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another live video. Today we're going to talk about yesterday's game against the New York Jets and my thoughts on that. What I think about it. Well, before we get into that, we're going to talk about. Of course, the Falcons had to go ahead and make roster cuts today and get down to 80. Everybody had to do that by 4 o'clock today. So, guys, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to this channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys like to hear what I talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in and hear me talk about these Atlanta Falcons. So, like I said, guys, today we're going to go ahead and talk about some of these roster cuts today. And honestly, today for me, it was a little surprising some of the names um that came up today because they do have another big cut on August 30th where they're going to cut about 30 guys. But some of these guys I thought would at least lasted until that time. But today, the first guy is Arden Tate. And I still remember going back talking about he was one of the first receivers that we signed during the off season. Big body guy. We was talking about how big our receiver room was going to be because we had all these basketball players. A guy who was a journeyman, didn't have a lot of catches in the NFL, but he had been in the NFL a while. So one of the veteran guys that came in that I thought was going to actually have a chance to make the squad. But at the end of the day, you already have a guy like Kyle Pitts, Arden Tate, Brian Edwards. You got Cardell Hodge still on the team right now. So a lot of those guys, I think it probably was just a little bit of redundancy, you know, keeping Arden Tate on the team along with Geronimo Allison. What's going on, Wallace? So with just those two receivers along, I think because we was enamored, let's be honest, we all was about how big our receiver room was, but it was just a lot of big guys. And I think you gotta have a little flavor to the receiver room. Gotta have some speed, you gotta have some guys that be able to, get out of cuts and things like that. So like I said, we already got Drake London. We already got Brian Edwards. We already got a guy like Kyle Pitts. So Geronimo Allison, on take those guys. Like I said, it was a little surprising today because, like I said, I thought they would at least get cut, on August 30th, but instead they got cut today. So that was just a little interesting to me. The other two guys, really not a surprise, Lafayette Pitts and Corey Dean. Both of those guys was already on the outside looking in anyway. Um, it was going to be hard for them to make the roster, even if they would have made the practice squad. So um, those two guys just cap casualties. I don't know if they put enough on film to actually be able to pick up by any other teams or something like that. But anyway, those guys. And then the last guy, which is kind of interesting, Jalen Dalton, because he actually started for Grady Jarrett last night and actually played pretty well. So, but he was released on the injured on the injured list. So if he clears waivers, he's probably come back on our IR anyway. So he would be a player that got injured last night, which I don't know when it happened, what kind of injury it is. They didn't really talk about that. Anyway, it looked like that Jalen Dalton that he was actually going. I thought he had a chance to actually make the 53-man roster because they're kind of thin in defensive line, like I said, and he had actually got an opportunity to start last night um, for Grady Jarrett. Yeah, I agree with you, Wallace. I think the way Bernhardt been playing, and I was going to get into him because he's one of the guys that I was going to highlight to put in the game, but I think Bernhardt, the way he man, I think they got a diamond in the rough. I mean, if you go look at his body type and how he's been looking, and I'm not comparing him to any of these guys like a Julian Edelman and Wes Weckers and things like that. But I mean, just the way he know how to get open and read defenses and utilize read options and things like that. And it could be like a lot of people talk about his lacrosse background. Yeah, yes, that's what I was just going to say. Yeah, his lacrosse background, because those guys have to move around a lot anyway. You got to think about how much agility they have to move and try to weave through guys to try to get and make the plays they be making in lacrosse. And he was the lacrosse player of the year. So just think about that. So um, I think Barnhart, man, believe it or not, um, he could make the team before Frank Darby. But the thing about Frank Darby, you saw what he did on special teams, and I keep saying this: special team is important, and he had 2 tackles on special teams last night. And I think that's what might save Frank Darby. Um, if they decide to keep 6 receivers, like again, I still think they're gonna keep 5, but um, I don't think Frank Darby's gone yet. But as far as being a receiver, his receiver ability, I just believe that honestly, I feel like Frank Darby um is behind Jared Barnhart right now. Yep, lacrosse. He was MVP for just like the Heisman for lacrosse players. So Wallace, you said it's going to be Drake London, Edwards, Zacchaeus, Bird, Hodge, and Barnhart. I I can't even argue with that. I'm feeling the same way right now. I think that's my list as I was looking right now. Of course, London safe. Edwards made plays last night. Hodge made a big play last night, and then Bird and Barnhart, the last 2 preseason games, they've been consistent. They made their plays. So um, that right now, that's my list too. And you're right, James. Barnhart got some hands, man. Like he look like a natural. He really do. I mean, like I said, I think his athletic ability, and we gotta do remember he was an option quarterback, and he won Division II national championship before he did become the undrafted free agent. So Barnhart, man, he's like I said, I just like the way he looked fluid. He know how to get open. Um, he utilizing that speed. They had him on kickoff last night, so that also means, the status of Avery Williams as well, because remember that running back position is still um, a tough thing to kind of figure out. Yeah, go ahead, Falcon fan. Yeah, you need to watch some of the highlights. Don't watch the second half though. I'm gonna get into that just a minute, but just watch the first half. Don't watch the second half. When you watch the second half, you're gonna be like, what are we watching? But I mean, yeah, like I said, I'll talk about that in just a minute. So let's go ahead and get into the game. So I'm going to go ahead before I even talk about the game. It was a preseason game. I get it. It's a preseason game, and you don't. That mean when it's preseason, you don't want to get too high. You don't want to get too low, right? And for all the media, pundits out there that's going to say that the Jets didn't play their starters, so let's get that out the way as well. With saying all that, the Falcons looked good last night in the first half. And in my opinion, so if you want to say they didn't play their starters, that means they should have dominated, right? And if you watch the game in the first half, that's exactly what the Falcons did. They dominated the first half. The Jets couldn't move the ball. Um, we stalled in the red zone, but I'm gonna tell you why. And just my opinion. In the red zone, Arthur Smith is not gonna call like exotic plays to get us in the end zone in the preseason because he don't want to show his hand. We know how these coaches are. They secretive. They like to do that. So, I mean, the first time we went down there with Marcus Mariota, if you think about it, Kyle Pitts, Cardell Patterson, he didn't even call their number. He he he's not going to show his hand. We got a game coming up against the Saints in a couple of weeks. So he's not gonna lay it all out to try to score, you know, and call exotic plays and try to get in the end zone to try to show people we can score. Trust me. he if you look at the plays, the way he was calling games last night, he was confusing um those those Jets defenders, and that's why our guy was running wide open down the field. He's showing you because I think now, like I said, with the ability to utilize the mobile quarterbacks, his offense is starting to open up a whole lot more. And you can, I mean, he had the pistol. He had two backs in the backfield, right, splitting the quarterback. He had a back behind him. He was just showing you all different formations. Um, that 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 has the defense thinking. Trust me, all those different formation. When he shifts two guys at the same time, the defense is thinking, and then they got to think about the quarterback bootlegging, who's going to get the ball. So that's what I that's what I want to talk about. The first drive, um, Marcus Mariota, the the offensive line looked good. He had time to throw the ball. I think instead of trying to overthrow Kyle Pitts on that pass, he was trying to make sure that he got it because Kyle Pitts was so open. And if you've been looking at some of the practice, they still got to get their timing down in a deep ball. And a lot of times he's been overthrowing Pitts, right? So he kind of underthrew the ball because I think if he would have put it led him a little bit, Kyle Pitts probably would have scored on that pad play because he had the guy beat. He had him beat all day. But at the same time, it was a good pass, it was a good play, and that just shows you um, what Kyle Pitts do to defensive backs, right? Um, like I said, he's too big for defensive backs. He's too fast for safeties and linebackers. So, like they always say, they're gonna have to pick their poison. They're gonna have to double him, and then I think a guy like Drake London is going to be able to benefit from that. Let's see, we got. I think we saw we need our team in the first half because defense played much. Yes, the defense like that was one of my keys going into this game. The way the defense played, and like I said, man, I'm gonna tell you what I really like about the defense. The way Dean Pease is calling pressures. I mean, the guys are coming from everywhere. If you see the one where he had Richard Grant coming in, um, he had the cornerback coming from the outside. He's calling pressure from everywhere. And during the off season, he said he did not open up his playbook last year. I think you're starting to see, um, and that's that physicality. That's that aggressiveness. He want to be aggressive, which means that hey, we're not gonna sit back and cover three and let these guys just drive down the field. We're gonna pressure them. We're gonna make them get the ball out their hand quick. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah, I'm definitely going to talk about the penalties, man. One of the good things about the game last night, Arthur Smith, how pissed off he was, and I love that. I love that, man, because it's just preseason, but he was pissed, especially um that 4th and 1 we was going to go for it, and Jalen Mayfield got a false start, man. He was upset. Um, I love that. I mean, all those penalties they was calling. And I mean, it was just like I said, the second half was bad. And if you think about it, these last two preseason games, with when Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ritter was in the game, penalties didn't hurt us. I mean, we got penalties, but they was able to overcome those penalties each time they was in the game. You like to see that, but at the same time, we have to those pre-snap penalties that we had was bad. I thought the one penalty that they called on Ogundeji, that was bad. He got tripped, man. That was not a penalty. I did not like that. So yeah, yeah, we tore that cover three up. That's that Dan Quinn defense, man. That cover three, their defense is outdated. It is. I mean, they looked like the Falcons last night. The Jets did. I mean, lanes was wide open. It's easy because those guys gonna be at certain spots. So I mean, if you watching Arthur Smith would call like the same play back to back, and every time guys was wide open. So it's an easy defense to read, um, and that's why when Dan Quinn was here, we was getting cut up like that because he tried to use what he used in Seattle, but you got to look at he got to have those kind of players. We didn't have that Legion of Boom, and that's why it don't work like that. So yeah, so I mean, but we talk about Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota went 6 for 10, 132 yards, one TD. That pass he threw to Zacchaeus was just outstanding, man. I really love that pass that he threw to Zacchaeus. I mean, it was just right on the money. And you looked at the pocket. One thing, like, because you have to look at the pocket as well. Um, he had nobody around and no pressure, right on the money, and that was just a common play. Like I said, it wasn't no exotic calls, anything like that, any tricky defense. Um, it just had two receivers on one side. One receiver went in, took the safety away, with left Zacchaeus out on the outside, 1-on-1, and he was able to beat the corner inside for that pretty throw by Marcus Mariota. So I think, like I said, man, the one thing about Marcus Mariota, um, he's keeping Desmond Ritter at bay. Um, like I said, to be honest with you, I really don't believe that Arthur Smith has opened up the playbook for Marcus Mariota. I think he's going to use because I know that they the same type of quarterbacks, the mobility and things like that. But I think Marcus Mariota is a little bit more dynamic in the run game. So what I mean by that is I think when he's going to call the game a little bit different for Marcus Mariota when the season start. Right now, like I said, most of the plays they vanilla plays, not showing a lot, just normal plays that you would call. Like I said in the preseason, to see if these guys can make their assignments, see can they catch, see can they block, see can they run through the holes and stuff like that. He's not putting a game plan together, getting ready for a particular team or anything like that. So I think Marcus Mariota, we're going to actually be able to see more and how they utilize him more. That's just the way I look at when I see um, the way he's calling the game. Because when Desmond Ritter get in the game, he's calling the game different. A lot of more passes. You can see he want to see if Desmond Ritter can command and get the ball out, and he's doing that. But I just think you know. So what I'm saying is right now, Marcus Mariota, in my opinion, still is a starter. But at the same time, I am impressed with Desmond Ritter. So we talk about Desmond Ritter. He looked this sharp last night. He really did. Going up against their backups. Um, I mean, the guy went 10 for 13. Um, what can you say? He had he got chewed out by Arthur Smith on a couple of times for procedure, you know, issues and the penalties and things like that. But you can tell that Desmond Ritter has played a lot of football and that um, he's poised. It's like the game is not too big for him. Like when they was like first and 25, and then like the next play he hit Bernhardt for a first down. Like I said, it's just like he don't get rattled and things like that. I love what I seen out of Desmond Ritter, but that's why I think he should sit for a year. I mean, and just follow me on this. If you look at how the San Francisco 49ers did with Trey Lance, and I think Desmond Ritter is way more advanced than Trey Lance was at this time, last year when he came in as rookie. However, I still think because we don't have to have put quarterbacks out there right now. Um, like I said, Marcus Mariota is not playing bad at all, right? And I know people want to say, well, we want to see what the future. We don't know. So let Desmond Ritter sit back, learn this offense, learn the game. I mean, they used to do that all the time. Let quarterbacks sit back and learn the game. I don't see why we can't do that, right? So he was picked in the third round. It's no rush to actually put him on the field. His development is the biggest thing. And like I said, I like Marcus Mariota doing anyway. So that's just my opinion. So right at this point, he's the backup. If Marcus Mariota go down, I I I w- I wouldn't be mad. I mean, I think we still have a chance to be able to move the ball. And yes, he's a rookie. He gonna make mistakes and things like that. But at this point, aside for what Kenny Pickett been doing over there at Pittsburgh, I think Desmond Ritter has probably been the best rookie quarterback. His play the way he's been playing these first two preseason games. So I think he playing good enough to show something happen. Yes, and that's what I'm saying. I think Ritter has played good enough to show that if Marcus Mario was to go down, um, he can come in and actually fill. That's what backup's supposed to do. And I want you guys to think about like this. Kurt Bankert, he always looked good in preseason. Matt Schaub always looked good in preseason. Good backup quarterback back supposed to look good in preseason because they're going up against the twos, right? They're going up against the guys who's trying to make the team on the fringe. So right now, Desmond Ritter is a good backup quarterback, and he can sit for a year and learn the game, get more development, learn this offense in and out, and then maybe next year, if if they still want to have that quarterback battle, let's see how it shakes out. But at this point in time, for me, I like the fact that Marcus Mariota is starting, and I'm not going to say if we start losing games, they can put him in then, but we'll just have to see. So that's just how I feel about the two quarterbacks. All right. So like I said, we talked about the defense, and of course Grady didn't play last night. Our AJ Terrell, Casey Hayward, those guys played like one series. They was out. So our depth, what I want to talk about, our depth showed up last night. When I mean our guys behind our starters, all right. Last year, when we think about our starters, when some of our starters went down, like a um Isaiah Oliver, things like that, we didn't have any guy in the backup to back those guys up. This year, I can see in some of those areas we have depth. We really do. We got depth. I mean, if you look at guys like um another guy stood out again. They've been standing out all camp, been standing out all preseason. D Alford, right? D Alford. He made an excellent tackle on the third down. Um, it wasn't even his man, but he was playing in, came in, saw the ball, made the tackle, got the guy, and got off the field. Right, third down. That was really something that hurt us last preseason game. Dean P mentioned that how bad we was on third down. This week on third down, we played a whole lot better on third down. That's what we want to do. That's the money down on offense and on defense, right? So we got to be able to get out the field on third down. But our depth overall, I don't know if you guys seen that play where Harris came up and stuck the guy on 3rd and 1. I thought that was impressive, man. And he's going. That's one of our backup safeties, right? Started last year. Right now we got the young guys in Hawkins and Richard Grant, but a guy like Harris coming in, and being that depth behind us. I mean, what can you say? I think Mike Ford, the way D. Alford has been playing, I think Mike Ford might be one of the guys. Could be on the outside looking in. Um, I want to say the same thing about Teej Tabor, but yeah, he made a big mistake on that touchdown last night. But then he came back and had a big interception. So, um, like I said, you got it, especially DBs. We all know DBs; they have to forget real fast, right? When we talk about defensive backs have to come in and then they have to forget about the last play if it's a good play or a bad play because I mean, trust me, those guys on the other side always think they can beat you. So you're out there on the island by yourself, just you, mano y mano. And so do DBs have to forget about it. So I like the way um the offer came back and actually made that play. But if you look at the play, who tipped the ball? It was the offer that came in, tipped it for T's Tabor actually to actually intercept it. Um so um we mentioned penalties, right? We had 13 penalties last night. 13 penalties, and most of the penalties was in the second half. Like I said, and I agree with Arthur Smith. Just watching the second half, it was I I like some of the things I saw from the second half. I mean, believe it or not, even though Felipe Franks couldn't make a pass, make a completion, I think he had like one completion. I do like his physicality. Um, just the imagination, how they can actually utilize him in the game. Um, kind of, kind of piqued my interest for Felipe Franks. Um, one thing I can say about Felipe Franks though, last year, a lot of times on game day when they had the active roster, Felipe Franks actually was on the active roster, and they had Josh Rosen actually being not active. This year, if they decide to keep three quarterbacks active, um, look out, like I said, look out for Felipe Franks to actually play a lot of special teams. And then if they want to utilize him some kind of packages or something like that. Because last year when they kept two quarterbacks active, it was Felipe Franks and Matt Ryan, but a lot of times Josh Rosen was not active. So if Matt Ryan went down, Felipe Franks would have had to been the that backup. And then but this year, Mark Smarter get down. We already know who's going to be the backup. So just a little tidbit about them keeping three quarterbacks. I do think they're going to keep Felipe Franks on the team. Like I said, because if he did a lot in camp and everything, playing tight end. Um, that's no excuse the way he looked last night. Couldn't throw the ball. I mean, because he played quarterback all through college, but last night, his physicality, and I think he was straight up punking DBs, man. He was straight up punking DBs. So, Wallace, you say, you said we're gonna keep six DBs, four safeties. Yeah, I agree with that. The six DBs would be um AJ Terrell, Casey Hayward, um, Darren Hall, D. Alford, Tease Tabor. Yeah. And then the four safeties is going to be Marlowe, Eric Harris, Richard Grant, and Jalen Hawkins. Oh, I forgot about Isaiah Oliver's this other six cornerback we're going to keep, which we remember Isaiah Oliver is actually playing. They've been moving him to safety as well. So that's why I think you're right, four safeties, because I think Oliver can move back and forth from that spot. So that's one of the things. And I was going to wait to get to James, or you talk about Jalen Mayfield, right? Um, we've been talking about Jalen Mayfield all off season, and um, the competition that they need to bring in against him. Well, we saw early on in camp he kind of lost that competition to Elijah Wilkinson, so he's been pretty much the backup left guard. But last night, um, I think Jalen Mayfield pissed off a lot of people. Like I said, that it's one thing when you're going for it on 4th and 1 at the goal line, but to have a false start and that's that's bad. And you can see how pissed off Arthur Smith was. I mean, mistakes like that. I mean, we talk about one of the most penalized guys in the season last year, right? And then so you would think that those are things you have to fix, right? He was a rookie. He's supposed to have that jump from year one to year two, but it seems like we're not seeing that. He had a couple penalties, and what his name, Rick Leonard. He had a lot of penalties last night too, as well. Holding penalties. Um, I'm just, I yeah, the offensive line last night, the second guys, Justin Schaefer missed on a pull, like they got the quarterback and the running back like destroyed. I know those guys was just shooting the gap like they was reading the snap count, but um, the offensive line last night, like I said in the second half, you go look at the second half. It seemed like two tails of two, like two different teams out there. Because the way the Falcons played in the first half compared to the way they played in the second half was like night and day. Um, we still cutting like 30 guys, so a lot of those guys probably not make the 53-man roster. However, um, when you talking about culture and building, those guys, the way they played last night, I know that's not what they was taught this whole off season how to play like that. So I thought it was a little bit. Um, it was kind of the bad. So we say we had the good, and we had the bad, and then we had the ugly, right? And the ugly was the way that second half went. Um, Felipe Franks trying to make a play in the rain, forming the ball, they run it back, and that's actually that's the game. That's actually how we lost the game. Um, that play, I thought overall our defense did well. Um, we didn't count for the running quarterback at the end of the game a little bit, but like I said, the weather kind of factor into that. They sent D offered on the blitz, but it kind of didn't break down. We seen a lot of that last year. Guys coming in out of control, try to hit the quarterback and need to break down and actually make sure the guy don't get outside. But the Jalen Mayfield, that offensive line, it just wasn't him. I'm not gonna just sing out him. He did get a couple of penalties, but I thought the offensive line as a whole, from its pass protection, I thought sometimes in the running game because towards the end of the fourth quarter, Franks and Caleb Huntley was getting yards in the run game. So um, I can't say the run game. What's going on, K Styles? What's going on, man? I know you guys coming on here soon, man. You know how to try to get on here before you guys pop up, man. Because I gotta try to catch you guys show. So um try to come on early to, to talk about this game and to see what you guys thought about the game last night. Like I said, for me, it was tail two halves. It was the Falcons in the first half, then um some kind of JV team out there in the second half. So that's that's the way I looked at the game. I'm just gonna put it like that. Uh, like I said, once again, they're gonna talk about they didn't play their starters, anything like that. Because just imagine if they didn't play their starters and we looked at bad, what would the narrative be, right? So they did what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to dominate the Jets second team. And if you watched the first half last night, that's exactly what they did. They dominated the they dominated the the, the Jets. And it's funny because we heard all through practice last week, right? That that the Jets dominate the Falcons. Um it looked like we know who the best team. That's the first time we seen a team worse than our team in practice. And if you listen to the broadcast last night, um, they they made so many excuses for the Jets, the way they played, the way they was playing, the way they played, and the first half. These guys knew that they wasn't going to come out and play their starters, so they're a better team. This they talked about all their draft class, and then the Falcons was like an afterthought. They finally started to talk about the Falcons, but I mean, it just goes to show you on a national, you know, TV show broadcast, how it was like one sided most of the game, right? And I mean, that's just honest. To be honest, that's what it sounded like. If you listen to the broadcast, they talked about the Jets a lot, and how much promise they got. They did talk about Arthur Smith and how would he said he wanted to change the culture and things like that. But I mean, that's why we make shows like we make, because we're gonna talk about the Falcons. We're gonna talk about, because my feeling is, honestly, they don't know our team, right? They don't know the players. They don't get every report every day. They don't listen to the coaches. They don't listen to the players. They don't know what kind of work these guys are putting in, and how how successful potential, how much potential this team actually has. I mean, if you go look at some of our games from last year, I mean, every game we was competitive. So, of course, the blowouts. I'm not going to talk about the Dallas game, the Patriots game. Um, I thought we was competitive in the Buffalo game. I thought that penalty they called on Matt Ryan in the end zone was a bunch of crap. But I thought we was competitive in that game. Remember, AJ Terrell picked off um, the quarterback twice in that game. I thought we was in that game. If Kyle Pitts didn't get hurt in that game, I thought maybe we had a chance. So we was competitive last year, but they don't want to talk about how competitive we were, and how we we was competitive against the Bucks last year, right? Um, Everybody's darling team. We was competitive against them. We beat the Saints. Everybody thinking the Saints got a chance to win the division this year. So, um, like I said, us as fans and us to like look at the players, look at the teams. Been tracking them all off season. We know, what the kind of potential this team has. So I mean, uh, that's just the way I look at it when I talk about the Falcons, right? We just got to look at it and see, um, from our eyes and how we feel about it. Um, I ain't saying the Falcons going to Super Bowl this year. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that we're not. We won't be 2-15. I'm gonna say that. I can almost guarantee we won't be 2-15 this year. So, um, and this team's gonna be exciting this year. It's gonna be competitive, and really, that's what you can ask for. It's any given Sunday, right? You don't know. Um, just like Arthur Smith said, I mean, guys get injured. All kind of things could happen. Um, long as we in the playoff hunt coming in December or something like that, anything could happen. So we'll just have to see. All right, so pretty much, guys, that's much all I got have for the game. Like I said, some guys I want to highlight. Of course, Jared Bernhardt. I think he almost he might have solidified his roster spot. Like I said, it's gonna be questions about that. How many receivers they decide to keep. I thought the way Tyler Algier played last night. Um, he looked good. One thing that impressed me was he's able to catch the ball out the backfield. Um, that was awesome. Fisker, um, I thought Anthony Fisker played well last night as well, catching the ball. He had 3 receptions. Um, Troy Anderson, we finally got to see Troy Anderson out there. He had 2 tackles. He almost took the quarterback head off. Quarterback tried to scramble, and he hit him for a slid. He almost got he made the quarterback rush on the blitz. Um, I still think he's learning the game, because I think he was out of position a little bit, but I think he needs more playing time out there. You can see his speed, like I said, especially when Dean P called the blitz. He almost got home. So some of those guys, Jalen Dalton, I thought played well last night, but unfortunately he's been waived because of injury. Um, I already talked about our offensive line, our second string offensive line. Um, Jermaine Fetty, one play, I don't know what he was doing. Like they got our quarterback destroyed. So um, it's still some work that needs to be done before we go into against the Saints on the 11th. But overall, I think we still headed in the right direction for this team. Um, we have to go ahead and wash away the Jets. We don't need to talk about that no more. We're done with that. It's on to Jacksonville. All these guys that still on the fringes, they gotta make a big cut here. Um, go from 80 to 53, and then of course, everybody clear waivers and things like that, they bring back the 16-man practice squad. So a lot of these guys still on the bubble, which bring me into my last topic tonight, and that's the roster, right? So um, we talk about the roster again. Um, the receiver position, like if you go back and look at my 53-man roster projection that I had, um, and I talked about the running backs and I talked about the receivers. I only had us keeping two quarterbacks initially. I think we already see. Definitely, I think Felipe Franks is going to be that third quarterback. They're going to decide to keep him. Um, Tight end position. Um, I don't think I called John Fitzpatrick's name all season, so I don't know what to think about him. I really don't. I don't know what to think about uh, John Fitzpatrick. I don't know if he's gonna make the team or not. Like I know I said last live that he's one of their draft picks. He's a Georgia boy, but I mean I can't say he did anything in the preseason. I don't know if he's showing anything in practice, but right now um, we haven't heard his name. Justin Schaefer the same way. Only thing I say from Justin Schaefer, he missed a block he was trying to pull down the line. Like I said, he almost got our quarterback and running back destroyed. So when we talk about the rosters and you're going down, and usually already penciled in our our starters. I mean our draft class. I already pencil in our draft class automatically most of the time. When I'm looking at our draft class, I already pencil those guys in because I'm just assuming that, hey, they drafted them, they're gonna make the roster. However, if you're looking at how Arthur Smith, Terry Fontenot manage their team, is all about competition. Yep, you got drafted, but they look at the undrafted guys as they consider what they call this was the eighth round. So some of those guys could leapfrog some of the actually guys they drafted, right? Because they signed these guys as well. So they looking at, yeah, we got these guys in the eighth round, like a Jared Bernhardt, Vice or Frank Darby. They drafted Frank Darby in the sixth round last year. They got Jared Bernhardt as an undrafted guy, but maybe they decide, you know, that Jared Bernhardt is a better signing than a guy like Frank Darby. We just have to see, even though, like I said, we kind of forget about special teams, and I think Frank Darby, um, right now, he makes his bones on special teams. And think about it, there's some guys that that's their career in the NFL, special team player, and they great special team players, man. Um, that's the way it is, right? So, like I said, I don't know about Frank Darby, but that's just one example. But like I said, I had John Fitzpatrick making the team. But I don't know if they keep four tight ends. I think Parker Hesse might leapfrog John Fitzpatrick, right? We know Pitts first is going to make it. Um, and like I said, I like the guy they use. Uh, McCole last night he had some good plays catching the ball. So it's just going to be interesting to see about some of these guys that they decide to keep with the roster. The running back room, Avery Williams, he looked decent in the return game last night. But how many running backs they're going to keep, right? So um, this week is going to be big for this team, for these guys. It's going to be big for like some of these guys I just mentioned. And then we're going to have to be interested to see if the Falcons and the Jaguars actually look at Saturday game as like a dress rehearsal, even though Arthur Smith said he don't even know what that is. He said this thing somebody just made up. But yeah, I mean he know what we talking about when we say dress rehearsal. But um, we know Arthur Smith is that's just the way he is. He likes to kind of remind me of Bill Belichick a little bit, like a no nonsense guy. Got some dry humor, and but you can tell If you watched the game last night and you saw him on the sideline, he don't play. So, um, and the penalties that he was pissed off about, those are the kind of mistakes that he don't like because, like I said, that's a mental thing when you're jumping off sides. Um, the holding and things like that, yes, that gets under you, but that's understandable. You get beat, you're trying to grab somebody because you got beat, but the pre-snap penalties is, I think, is one of the biggest things that Arthur Smith do not like. So guys, that's it for today. That's 46 minutes talking about um the Jets against the Falcons. And like I said, um we're gonna go ahead and forget about that. Take all the good things that we seen, all the bad things. Those guys need to make sure they look at film, work on all those, and the good things. Those guys need to stack those, right? Stack those days. That's how you get better. Take all the positive things you talk. You want to look at some of the things that we definitely can work on. Like I said, Marcus Mariota need to make sure he's stepping to his throws because I think he probably could have had 2 touchdowns. Um, Even though I think I thought both quarterbacks looked great last night. Really, just nitpicking though, if you're trying to look at those kind of things. Um, uh, Desmond Ritter looking real good. Like I said, however, for me, I still think that he needs to sit. All right, um, that's just me. Right, I don't think he did enough to knock Mariota out, which means I thought Mariota played well enough to keep the number 1 starting job. So, what's going on, Bubba Gump? So that's just me. So take notes. All the things we seen. Like I said, when we before the game started, when everybody said that the Jets just dominate the Falcons, well, that first half it was the opposite. The Falcons dominated the Jets, and if it was their second team, well, that's what the Falcons was supposed to do. Our first team was supposed to dominate their second team, and that's what we did. It was 16-3. They couldn't even move the ball. That last little drive they got, um, like I said, we had some breakdowns there, but hey, I thought we that first half was promising for us. Even though, like I said, it's preseason. Don't get too high, don't get too low, and then we just throw away the whole second half. So, guys, that's all I have today. Thank you guys for coming in, talk to me. Um, Look forward to see what we got going on next. We're down to 80 players. They got one more cut. They got joint practice this week with the Jaguars. If you guys can get out there, I think some of those practices are open practice. So we just have to see what happens. And that's it. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.